Hello fellow gamers, I'm Christopher Chrisman of Retro Game Network, and coming up next, a look at last week's retro video game news on the RGN Files for the week ending Sunday, December 9, 2018. In the RGN Files this week, Sony has officially entered the mini throwback console market with the release of the PlayStation Classic 1 week ago today. The PlayStation Classic is an all-in-one emulator-in-a-box style device that brings 90s gamers a new method of playing 20 PlayStation 1 games on modern TVs. The console takes advantage of the PCSX rearmed emulation program using a customized interface. The buttons on the device, which appear similar to the original PS1, mimic other modern features, such as virtual disk changing and memory card emulation. It includes two wired controllers that look and feel just like the original controllers that came with the mid-90s console, and are thus not DualShock compatible. The North American version of the system includes a variety of game genres, including a collection of action games, puzzle games, and Japanese role-playing games. Meanwhile, the Japanese version is more focused on RPGs, with side-scrolling shoot-'em-ups thrown into the mix. Some of the games included in the North American version include Final Fantasy VII, Grand Theft Auto, and Tekken 3, while the Japanese version includes titles such as Ark the Lad, Parasite Eve, and Saga Frontier. The reviews of the system have been mostly mixed and negative, with gamers criticizing the games that are included alongside of the system's lack of expandability. The PlayStation Classic is now available for sale for just under $100. In other PlayStation Classic news this week, it didn't take long for retro video game hackers to tap into the device itself, accessing parts of the system that are unintended for the average consumer. About 24 hours after the console was released, a method of entering into the device's emulation was discovered by Retro Gaming Arts, and it's as easy as plugging in a Corsair or Logitech USB keyboard. Some of the features that could be manipulated include the changing of frame rates, scanline addition, and the ability to enter cheat codes. In addition, about 2 days after the release of the console, Twitter user Bako Ikozu shared a video showing that it is possible to load a game ISO image from the USB memory through the device. Shortly after the original exploit was discovered, yet another method was shown by Yifan Liu and Molecule Team hackers Dave and XYZ, in which an ISO copy of Crash Bandicoot was successfully loaded and shared via a live Twitch stream. In the midst of all these hacks, it was also discovered that the source code showed off 36 additional games that were used during product testing that would ultimately not be included in the final device. These said games include Crash Bandicoot, Parappa the Rapper, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Early reports had indicated that the games were still on the device and hackable to load. However, this has since been proven false. The reason for not including such games has not yet been confirmed by Sony. Fans of the Sega Dreamcast now have a new method of connecting the legacy console to modern televisions. The DC HDMI is a brand new internal modification that replaces the video board in the original system, providing it with a native HDMI output. The modification is the creation of Dan Kunz and Christoph, aka Chris 2600. The release of the DC HDMI makes it the only digital-to-digital HDMI Sega Dreamcast solution that is presently available to the public. Unlike some of the other cable-based options, the modification is fully compatible with games that are compatible with VGA and otherwise. It also offers a proper aspect ratio when compared to other cable-only options. The modification outputs 100% native digital HDMI-based video and audio, outputting at 480p and scaled at 960p, with a 1080p being supported as 960p with borders. It also has a special Force VGA mode, which emulates the insertion of the VGA box, making the Dreamcast internally render games at just 480p. You can also add simulated scan lines and obtain firmware updates via a local Wi-Fi connection. The first batch of 35 modification kits were made available last Saturday, with an additional 35 kits planned to be offered this coming Wednesday. The cost of the DC HDMI modification kit is $205, and installation services are currently being offered at no additional cost for United States customers, providing that a console is provided to the creators in advance and in fully working condition. A new do-it-yourself homebrew project has recently been published that will add Game Genie-like abilities to the Atari 2600. The new device, which is simply known as the Cheat Device, is the creation of Andy West of Element 14. It was created using a TerraSync Technologies FPGA development kit with 2 GPIO headers and 32 megabytes of RAM. It also requires a 24-pin cartridge connector to connect the Atari 2600 cartridge to the device, as well as a 40-pin GPIO cable, as well as an Atari 2600 4K PC board also being required. During the alpha testing process, a breadboard device was also taken advantage of. The software interface includes a total of 3 cheat codes that are 5 digits in length. in which the patches are comprised of 2 different segments, a 3-digit address as well as a 2-digit data value. The final cheat device product was housed using a shell that was printed using a 3D printer. Among some of the codes that have been discovered thus far include changing colors and unlimited lives in Dragonfire, invincibility in Berserk, preventing aliens from descending in Space Invaders, and starting a game of video pinball with 9 balls instead of 3. All of the information and schematics that are required to create your own cheat device module have been made available to the public by Element 14. There's currently no word on whether or not these items would ever be mass-produced for purchase by a casual gamer. In other Atari-related news, a new homebrew title for the Atari Lynx handheld is currently in development that will expand the system's RPG library. Lakem's Legacy has been in development for several months by the team of Martin Wendt, Dan Thorson, and Camille Wolanowski. The game starts off being set in a village and will offer multiple areas with a wide variety of themed locations, such as wooded areas, coastlines, dungeons, and other areas. Being isometric in nature, the game also offers a variety of typical role-playing game-style elements, including battling enemies and picking up treasures, items, and other loot. It currently handles 8 independent animated objects, such as projectiles, contains a fully functional inventory system, alongside of items that can be picked up from chests and barrels. It also features an audio engine, in which the developers hope to stream a 3-channel chiptune at one point. In addition, the video engine runs at a full 60 frames per second, which Wendt has stated may not be the final, as character sprites running at 30 frames per second could cause noticeable slowdown. Lakem's Legacy is currently a work in progress, and there is no official word on when the game would be completed. However, it has been confirmed that the upcoming title would receive a physical release on cartridge, with Lux Soft being responsible for the distribution. There's currently no word on what the retail price would be upon its completion. And finally this last weekend, Ralph Breaks the Internet enjoyed its 3rd weekend in theaters, and its success is continuing to climb. Domestically within the United States, the sequel to the 2012 Disney film Wreck-It Ralph remains at the top of the charts as of the end of the business day last night. The movie has brought in a total of over $258 million, earning a gross of over $83 million in ticket sales worldwide thus far. With all of this being said, the film has, however, begun getting a reduction in the showing screens throughout the United States, dropping from 4,017 screens to 3,795, showing a reduction of 222 US screens over the past week. Ralph Breaks the Internet still has many premiere dates for international audiences in upcoming weeks, including a release in the Netherlands this coming Wednesday, Japan on December 21st, and Australia on December 26th. Dozens of other release dates are still slated for the first quarter of 2019. Ralph Breaks the Internet is Walt Disney Pictures' 57th full-length animated feature. That's it for this week's edition of the RGN Files. For those listening on BGM on FM, please stay tuned. There'll be more music coming up shortly. For complete details of any of this week's stories, visit RetroGameNetwork.com. And don't forget to follow us on our social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Retro Game Network, and on Twitter and Twitch at RetroGameNet. For the Retro Game Network, I'm Christopher Chrisman. This week's news stories provided by the following: Atari Age Facebook page, Atari Age forums, Atari Gamer, Box Office Mojo, Dreamcast Talk, Indie Retro News, Mashable, Resetera, Retro Gaming Arts, Retro Magazine, Retro RGB, Sony Entertainment, WCCF Tech, Walla.